93.7, Asheville.
Good morning. You're listening to the Blaine's World Show, heard each Wednesday here on the new WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina. You can also listen online at www.wpvmfm.org. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in the Asheville area. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my first guest, Jimmy Ferraro, who is a theater producer, director. He's also involved with something called the Center for Arts and Inspiration. And welcome aboard, Jimmy.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, Blaine.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you. And I should also mention that Jimmy has been on Broadway national tours and done a lot of regional theater. And he's also the theater producer, director at the Center for Art and Inspiration in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And the question I always ask entertainers when I first speak to them is, you've been an entertainer for a couple of years, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And what got you into it? When you were a little kid running around, where did you grow up, by the way?
I grew up in New York. Actually, I was born in Queens.
Okay.
And then when I was 9 years old, we moved way out to Long Island, which actually wasn't too far, Valley Stream.
Oh, I think I told you, I grew up in Freeport, then Long
Yeah,
Lawrence.
we're neighbors.
Okay.
You know, Valley Stream was great, 38 minutes on the Long Island Railroad, and we were in Manhattan.
And so, and one time you could even drive right on the Long Island Railroad as a kid by yourself.
That's
you
right.
know?
Oh, yeah, and the buses and all.
Times change.
But I always knew that I wanted to be an actor, singer, and an actor.
Even as a young kid.
You know, my parents have 8mm. No one even knows what that is anymore. You might blame 8mm films that they took of me, 2 and 3 years old, singing and dancing, playing musical instruments. So it was always in my blood.
Do you still have those?
I do.
Really? Oh my goodness!
I do.
It reminds me a little of Billy Crystal. You know, Billy Crystal
Yes.
also grew up on Long Island
sure.
and entertained for his parents and
And that's how it all
grandparents.
started. You know, when I was 5 years old and I was living in Queens, I was in kindergarten at PS 96 in South Ozone Park, New York. And King World Productions came to see a little show that was being put on, and I was in that show. And they were looking at me to be Spanky in The Little Rascals in a remake. My parents, though, at that time were not interested in having their little James going into show business in films and stuff like that. So, but that was kind of my first entrance into the world of show business.
At the age of 6?
5.
At 5?
Yeah.
But then you told me off the air. So your first actual production was, you were 13?
13 years old,
and
yes.
what was that?
That was at Memorial Junior High School in Valley Stream. And that was as J.C. Squires, the tenor in the quartet of The Music Man.
Now, do we have a tape of that?
Oh, no, we don't. Maybe an etching somewhere. It's been so long ago.
Well, you know, it's funny because I was telling you, wouldn't that be a great, perhaps, fundraiser for the center, that we should get you to perform that number and get all the people who did their very first show, just do like a variety show.
Fantastic. What did you do? What was your first?
I didn't act. It's funny you ask. My very first show, I'm not an actor per se, but it was Young Frankenstein here at Asheville Community Theater. I had one line, you know, and I can handle one line.
Fantastic.
You know, but anyway, so 13 years old, first role. Where'd you go from there?
You know, I was very fortunate, Blaine, to be living on Long Island. The school system was fantastic, and the arts were very big in our school. We had fantastic theater program, fantastic music program. So I was in all of the school plays and musicals, and that's where it all started. At 16, I was fortunate enough to start in nightclubs. My parents had to be with me. My first appearance at 16 was at the world-famous San Susan. I don't know if you remember that on Long Island.
Yeah, I'm not familiar.
That was
with
in
it.
Franklin Square.
Yeah, they had also El Patio. All the beach clubs used to
yeah.
have clubs as well.
So that was really my first big experience at 16 years old, singing in a nightclub. Again, my parents had to be with me.
Were you the solo performer?
I was, yes. And I had charts and everything.
So you went from there to...
I was back into my shows in school, and outside I started in community theater at 16 also with the Nassau Youth Theater Company in Elmont. And I did many shows with them. The first one was Hello, Dolly. I was 16 years old playing Horace Vandergelder.
Oh, I love it.
And then I did Applause with them. I played Dwayne Fox. And the last show that I did with them was Jesus Christ Superstar as King Herod. And that was at Hofstra, actually, at the John Crawford Adams Playhouse. You know, that was the biggest theater I had played at that time, 1,800 seats.
Did you ever do Westbury?
I never did.
In the
And there I
round,
am.
though.
I'm right there, and I never played Westbury.
Because it's funny, you don't see many theaters in the round too much, even though it's kind of interesting. Yours is almost a variation of that now.
Yes, the Center for Art and Inspiration in Hendersonville, we are able to really configure it in different ways, but it's really like a three-sided right now, but we can also make it in the round. We can make it proscenium, so it has a lot of variables for how to stage different productions.
And so then talk a little bit about, perhaps, I don't know, your most famous, well, it is your most famous role. You also did a little small role in another play that people may know, and what was that?
There's a small role in a play
Right.
people may know. Which one is that?
Fiddler.
Yes, a very small role. You know, I've done over 3,000 performances now of Fiddler on the Roof. I was the first time I was in Fiddler on the Roof, actually, I was 19 years old. It was at the Country Dinner Playhouse in St. Petersburg, Florida, playing the oldest role in the show, the rabbi.
Oh,
How did that happen? And so I went on from there, but now I've done over 3,000 performances. I've on Broadway and in 3 national tours. The last one being in 2012 when I played Tevye in the National Tour of Fiddler, which was my dream role. But I played it many times before then as
but
well.
I could see it, though, being,
It's just in my blood.
yeah, I could see it. Well,
I'm an honorary Jew. You knew that, right? I mean, just because my name is Ferraro, I am an honorary Jew. I've done it so many times. And I had, I was cast by Jerome Robbins in the first national tour of Fiddler, and also worked with him on Broadway. And he's, the god of American musical theater. What an opportunity it was for me to be able to work with him and many of the stars that were in the original company as well. Maria Karnilova, who played Golda and won the Tony Award for it, was in our company as well.
it's funny you mention that. Now we bring back a memory. The very first time I saw Fiddler was in New York. I was so excited I was going to see Zero Marcel.
Sure.
He's not there. Said we have an understudy, a guy by the name of Harry Goss.
Harry Goss.
And Harry Goss did the most number of performances, I think, after.
Harry
That's-
Goss and Paul Lipson
Yeah.
did the most number of performances of Tevye. And I worked with Paul Lipson as well in the National, and on Broadway he played Laser Wolf, and he was also understudy for Herschel Bernardi as Tevye.
Well, it's funny, too, as you're talking about it, you think about Broadway shows, and they all have understudies, or for the
sure.
major characters. Yet, it's amazing how many shows still go on, even, in all the years I've seen shows, maybe I've only seen one show get canceled, and somehow, but down here, it's a lot different because you don't have understudies for the most part. You have just main characters.
Yes.
But it's amazing. They all go on because sickness, illness, traffic, whatever.
I was doing Guys and Dolls. I've done over 1,000 performances of that. It's Nicely, Nicely.
I can
and
see
I had,
it, yeah.
I've done all those stubby K roles. I wonder why. But I had 2 wisdom teeth taken out, and I still went on and did all of those numbers. Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat. In the wings, I would be changing gauze pads in my mouth, and I even gone on with 102 temperature. But, that's showbiz. That's what we do. That's the old school.
Have you ever had to
Showbiz.
miss a show?
I have. I've missed a show only when my mother passed away.
Yeah.
I have. But then actually the director went on for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's funny because I have a friend you'll meet, Brian Barrow, and he's a motivational speaker, speaks throughout the country, and somehow he's never missed a show. Even because of weather, transportation, whatever, he'll drive a car, he'll get there. The show must go on.
Yes. I'll walk, I'll crawl, I'll get there.
And you've been there. So you did all this work. What brought you to the Asheville-Hendersonville area?
Janie Linders, our founder of the Center for Art and Inspiration. We worked together for many years. Jeannie is the author of Menopause the Musical. Huge hit. It's still playing all over the country.
Will you do that also?
I don't know. We haven't talked about that yet.
They've done it a couple of times in Asheville,
okay.
but very short runs. They've done it at Diana Wortham Theater. I think that'd be a natural to have it down at your place.
It would.
And
It
people would love it, I think, yeah.
But we have, quite a bit of variety of entertainment. In fact, The thing is with the Center for Art and Inspiration is that we're about community and we're about entertainment. It's not a theater. That's not the experience. We're more about entertainment and variety. And I think that's really what the public wants now, variety. So it's very exciting for us. And we also have Malaprop's bookstore, a satellite store, which is fantastic. And we have the Artful Cup, which is the coffee shop. So people can come in the daytime, Tuesdays through Sundays, and take out a book, have a cup of coffee and relax and just enjoy that part of the center. It's really a community center, and we're really embracing that. We also have art classes, Hendo stories, storytelling, which is very big, I understand, here.
Very big, yeah.
And we have some prominent storytellers that are going to be at our theater as well.
Well, even as you describe it, I'm kind of getting excited, and you'll talk about the brochure you brought in, too, for it. But there's almost something for everybody, because I know you're having a friend of mine, Randy Robbins,
Oh,
is going to be
yes.
doing a comedy thing.
Yeah, he's going to have workshops for comedy, which is great. I mean, what an opportunity for young performers to be able to come to the center and have a professional giving them comedy classes. It's exciting. And we also have art classes as well. So it really is the center for entertainment.
Well, you said, so one of the things was the Zen, what do they call that, Zentangle? Or,
Yeah, Zentangle.
yeah, my wife's taken that, and I said,
Okay.
whoa, what is that doing there? But it's just, I guess you're open to, you name it, you're open to it?
Yes, and art, again, and inspiration. Poetry readings. I mean, we're very excited about the broad range of entertainment that we're going to be having there.
Well, I love the title, too, where you came up, who came up and named the Center for Art Inspiration?
That was Jeannie Linders, our founder.
Yeah.
It's something that she's been planning to do for 10 years, and she's very excited about it.
Because what I like about the concept, as you said, I can see you being open almost eight days a week, and 24/7. Because
Yes.
one of the problems with local theater, and even you replaced, it was Flat Rock Playhouse had a satellite campus, there was a satellite theater there too. And it was just theater, it's just very traditional kind of theater. And I guess you've opened that up to say that you're a lot more than just a typical theater.
Blaine, we have a fantastic team, and we're really into community and being part of the community and having things for our community, a place for them to go and relax. Like I said, read a book, have a cup of coffee, see one of our interactive murder mystery shows, which is going to be very fun. That's a dinner show that we're doing. The first one is a show that I wrote with my friend David Craven, and I performed it a lot in Florida. It's called My Big Fat Italian Wedding Murder.
And when's that going to be?
That's going to open the theater. Actually, it's the first show. It's going to be on March 2nd. We're going to have 2 shows that day, a matinee and an evening. And what's nice is that you can be involved in it and participate or not, but the audience gets to solve the murder.
Well, and what's fun about it, again, they've done some of that in the Asheville area, but not too much, which, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So what happens? People come to a reception for a wedding?
Yes, actually, it's all done like it's a Italian, New York-style wedding in the 1980s. And it's just like going to a wedding. When you come in, you go to the registration table to see which table you're at with those little place cards. Mr. and Mrs. Jones at table 8, just like you're going to a wedding. It's the reception, and the first part of it, of course, is like a social part with like the cocktail hour, and the performers are mingling with the guests, and there's a murder. And on each table, we pick a leader, and they have an envelope there which says, "Do not open under the penalty of the MAFIA, the Mothers and Fathers Italian Association." And in there is play money so that they can bribe the cast to find out information. There's also a form there with the suspects on it, so they could take notes and make notes and think who is going to be the murderer. How did they do it? Why did they do it? And it's very fun. The audiences have just loved it in the past. In fact, I've had repeat customers several times because there's always a new killer. So it's different every time.
How many people are in the cast?
There's 14.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's a big, fat Italian wedding.
So the idea then, you come to the show and you also get fed there too?
Yes, food too. So all of the action happens around and involved with the guests, and it's a 3-course dinner. So you first have your salad, and the show is going on. Then you have your main course, and then of course wedding cake for dessert.
Now, who's in your spare time? Are you doing all the food also?
No, we have a caterer doing that.
Okay.
Yes.
So the whole idea, you come in, you'll have either a lunch or late lunch or a early dinner, or I guess early dinner or something like that too.
Yeah.
And that sounds
Yeah,
like
and the audience gets involved, with this Italian show. We do the tarantella, people get up and dance, we do the chicken dance, all of those old
is that
favorites.
fun?
Yeah, it's very fun.
Well, I'm there. How long are you going to be doing that show for?
It's going to be playing in rotation, so it'll be every other month we'll be doing the Italian wedding show. And in between we have other murder mysteries that we're doing as well. The Murder on the High Seas is a great little murder mystery, and that's a dessert theater. So you have desserts. No dinner, but that's desserts. And then we have an improper royal tea, which is all done around a high tea. So it's very exciting.
And by the way, back to even the dessert theater, I think you have something there too, because again, in New Jersey, I was very familiar with the dessert theater, but in this area, I don't recall ever seeing it. Which is kind of nice. So you don't want the full course dinner; you come just for dessert, and a great way to celebrate a night out or a day out in the theater.
Yes, and you get to decide who was the killer.
Is that the same thing? The teas? There's also, you decide who the killer is?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is
They're
there-
all murder mysteries.
Is there a different killer every time?
There is.
Okay, so each time the cast has to improv it, or
Yeah,
guess a little bit?
there are several different endings for the show. So it depends, like with with the royal tea, it depends who the audience picks to be so who is the majority of the audience, who they pick is the one that we reveal at the end. And then we also give prizes, and it's very fun.
Now, what will also be fun in this, I understand you're in some of these shows as well?
Yes.
Well, the one coming up, and now
Yes,
down to see.
I play the friendly neighborhood priest
Okay,
in the Big Fat Murder Mystery. Yeah, Big Fat Wedding.
okay, and so it seems that you've done that a couple of times also?
Oh, yes, many, many times. Yeah, so I direct it. I'm also in it. I produce it. And my wife, Dieta Rowe, who is also a Broadway performer, she is in my Big Fat Italian Wedding Murder Mystery also.
Which is kind of really unusual that you're not only producing and directing all these shows, you're actually in them. So it seems like you're not planning for a lot of sleep in the Asheville area.
No sleep for us. We're showbiz people. We just keep going.
Now that show will be on, you said, beginning in March. It'll be your
March
first
2nd.
show.
Mhm.
And there'll be matinees and dinner performances?
Yes, matinees and dinner. And again, in rotation. So there'll be a new murder mystery every month, and then they'll be repeated. So it's really a great thing, because once you go to it, you're going to want to see the next one.
Or, as you're saying, I want to bring my friends to it too.
Yes.
But I'm just trying to plan on this. So that first one, how many weekends, or just one
It's
weekend?
just one weekend.
Oh, so I better get tickets soon. on
Yes,
that.
you should.
And then two.
And you can go to our website. It's very simple. It's www.thecenterai.com.
Okay, and that'll have all the
Has
information.
all of the shows, all of the information that you need to buy tickets. There's a link. Just click on there and plan your day.
Knock my socks off just reading about some of the stuff you're doing. Again, which is incredible about this. Most people start off very slowly. They'll do one show and get the lay of the land. You already have your opening in March. That'll be the first thing.
Yes.
You already have, it looks like, half a year booked out.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? What's fantastic is that we have a team of professionals. So we've all done this already. And I think that really lends itself to being able to the process of lining up entertainment and shows, because we've done it already. So not necessarily these shows, but we've been in the business for so many years.
We'll talk about some of the shows you're going to be doing, and then I want to talk about who's going to be in them.
Great. We have In the Mood, which has like 25-piece big band and singers, and we're going to be producing that at the Blue Ridge Community College, and that's in April. And then we're also producing ABBA-mania, and that's going to be in October, and that's the international group for ABBA. And that's going to be at the college as well. Now, at the center, we have the Star Series. And these are performers that I've worked with over the years. They're not only celebrity lookalikes, but they're sound-alikes as well. Martin Preston, who I have produced his show for many, many years, we've been friends for over 30 years, he does Liberace, and he is registered with the Liberace estate to be able to perform his show. Martin is a concert pianist, so you're getting all of that live. The difference with our Star series than other people that do that is that ours are productions, so it's not like a concert or singing the music of, like our Barbara Streisand. That's Simply Streisand is the name of the show, and that's her. She's Carla Vecchilaccio, and she has received unbelievable reviews from the New York Times, and she's performed all over the world. So we have her coming in as Barbara Streisand, which is going to be very exciting. She sounds and looks like her.
Now, those shows will not necessarily be dinner shows, right? Is that
Right.
correct?
Those are going to be regular shows, regular productions.
Because again, even as you're describing them, I'm saying to myself, and I've been in the area for like 10 years, I haven't seen most of the stuff at all, which is great, because that's something new. Because one of the problems, I think I told you on the phone one time, that I see in the Asheville area is that some of it's same old, same old. I've seen
Yes.
the same show 3 times. It was done in 4 years, a production of a drama, and that's okay, but that's a lot.
Yes.
Your stuff, looking at the calendar there, most of it's never been in the Asheville area, which is, I think, cool.
Oh, well, that's great to know, too, because we have this Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis show. The funny thing is that with that is the Dean Martin entertainer, Tommy Stevens, but I know him as Tommy Chaklis because we went to Memorial Junior High School together. So we kind of grew up together. He's been doing Dean Martin for over 30 years in Las Vegas. So I called him up to see if he would come here. Oh, he was thrilled. And he has a partner that does Jerry Lewis. They're a phenomenal team. So I hope that you come to see that, Blaine, because it's so good.
Well, the problem, maybe, like you were telling me off the air, you have a place in Florida. Maybe I should just get a place in Hendersonville, and I can just stay there.
I think that sounds good. You could bunk with us.
Your place, even better. I just thought of that. But there's so much you're doing, and they're all kind of fun shows,
Yes, thank you.
Again, you better get there quickly because most of these are just a weekend.
Yes, they're either, most of them are weekend with like a Thursday matinee, a Friday evening, and then 2 shows on Saturday, a matinee and an evening performance.
So one of the things I will ask, so you will do some shows during the week?
Yes, we will do that also. Plus, we have lots of other things going on. Don't forget the art classes. And we have the subway wall. Wait do you see that? It's a very interesting concept. We have the author of Subway Therapy coming in. He made this wall in a subway where people can write down their feelings, their emotions on a Post-it note. So we're having him come to Hendersonville, the author of his book, and we've made a subway wall in the building, in the lobby, and that's where it's going to be another place for people to write things down, their emotions, their hopes, their dreams, and be able to put that on the subway wall.
Well, it sounds like, too, almost an underlying theme of this, it's all going to be fun, too.
Fun. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe you'll do some heavy stuff. And it'll be
I don't think so. Not that heavy.
Well, there'll be a murder or two.
There is a murder, but you have to remember it's a comedy.
Okay.
It's a musical comedy murder mystery.
Well, then also, you told me off there, which I can't wait to see, you'd bring it to your place, is, of course, the Wiki-Wachi, what was that? Springs? We won't be able to do that, though, unfortunately.
Okay, so I have a home. I have a home in Weeki Wachee, Florida. It's about an hour north of Tampa. And Weeki Wachee is known for the Weeki Wachee mermaids. In fact, when you come into the town, it says the only city of live mermaids. But that it's a funny story because it was a destination years ago when it opened, 65 years ago. The fella built an underwater theater and have these ballet dancers breathing through a hose to keep their breath, and they dance underwater. I mean, it sounds like a silly concept, but people would flock there, and they still do now. It's a state park. They have a whole waterlog ride, and they have peacocks walking around, and it's an amazing sight, and it's filled all the time. In fact, they have a mermaid camp for young girls. There's a waiting list to get on it.
Well, it's funny. I just saw David Blaine not too long ago in Asheville, and one of his tricks, he had a big glass partition where you had water in it, on stage. So we could bring that. We'll just put your big stage, a big
Put an
glass.
aquarium on stage, and we're going to invite you to be in the show.
I love it. Jimmy, talk also about the fact, and I know a lot of my friends are really excited, that you're doing also a lot of hiring of local actors
Oh,
and
absolutely.
performers. I think you have an upcoming audition, too?
We do. We have an audition for actors, singers, dancers on January 27th and 28th. And if you're interested in coming to that, we welcome everyone to come. Just please give the theater a call to get an appointment time. They can be reached at 828-697-8547. 828-697-8547 to sign up for our auditions.
And so your plan is to hire mostly local actors and
Well,
actresses? as
yes,
you
well,
can?
that's what we'd like to do. Yeah, but we're bringing in the stars also, for the different series.
Right. But very exciting, and a lot of people are looking forward to
Well, we
that.
want to get everyone involved.
Yeah.
That's what we're all about. Again, community.
I always thought that one of the toughest jobs you must have as a director, producer, whatever, is in part the casting, because you're going to get a lot of people. I imagine you probably have already signed up a lot of people
Oh,
for these
yes.
auditions. That must be a tough job to have to tell people, or I guess it's exciting to tell the person to have the gig.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But when they don't get the gig, that must be tough.
It is. I've been an actor for so many years. So, even if you're a successful actor, there are roles that you don't get. It's tough. It's tough. I think it's tough on all sides. Tough on the actor who's not getting the role, and tough on the director that has to let them know that. But it could be for so many reasons that has nothing to do with your talents. So I want everyone who's listening today to know that if you don't get in one show, come out and audition for the next one. It just might be you're too tall. It might be that you don't have the right look. But there's something for everybody. So come on out and audition for us.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I have a good friend of mine who sometimes gets a little discouraged when she doesn't get a role. And I say the exact same thing. Well, there are a lot of people going for roles, a lot of talented people in this
Sure.
area. And in some respects, it's a game of numbers. And let me ask you, maybe New York might be an example, might not. But for even when you were a performer,
Yes.
for every 10 roles you auditioned for, how many did you get?
One.
No, and is that low sometimes?
No, yeah, that's like average. Most of the shows that you audition for, you don't get.
Right.
I was so fortunate with my career in Fiddler on the Roof, because when I first went, they had interviews. I don't even think they do that anymore. They were called equity principal interviews, was even before the audition. And I'll never forget, Mary Jo Slater, a big casting director in New York. Hello, Mary Jo, if you're listening. That's Christian Slater's mother.
Okay.
She was a casting director. And when I went for my interview, she says, "I'm sorry, but you don't look Jewish." So I didn't even get to, go any further. And that was my, my first introduction into the New York theater scene. But I persevered, and when the auditions came up for open calls, I went, and there were over 600 men there. And they narrowed it down, from that to 24 of us. They narrowed it down to like 6 of us, because they were using a lot of the people that were from the original production. So there weren't a lot of parts that were open. And to tell you the truth, I was the last one to be cast in the show. It was between two of us. I was called on the phone and asked to come in for my last audition. And I went in and I sang, and I came out and waited. The other fellow went in and sang and came out and waited. And when the stage manager finally came out, he came over to the other fella and said, "Thank you for coming in. Jimmy, we have a contract for you." So, it was down to 2 people. And that's just the way it goes.
And the mistake, in retrospect, we should have just changed your last name to Schwartz or for Ferrarowitz.
That would have done it, don't you think?
Yeah, James Ferrarowitz.
Yes.
But I think you're giving listeners a really good advice, and that number is a little scary. 600 people,
Men.
600 men, and that
We were waiting and sitting around for hours.
Yeah. And I tell people the same thing too. Just keep applying.
Yes.
Because again, this friend seems to get about 50% of the roles she goes for. I said, that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Don't let anyone or
Right.
anything distract you from going forward. It's that kind of a business. Just you have to persevere.
Okay. And so, Jimmy, to wrap up, let's talk about 2 things. So one, is if folks want to get information about the Center for Art Inspiration downtown Hendersonville, best bet is to do what?
Go online to thecenterai.com. thecenterai.com. And if you're interested in the auditions, give a call to our main number, which is 828-697-8547. 828-697-8547, and sign up to be part of our Broadway season.
Okay, I look forward, Jimmy, to seeing you in lots of stuff and coming down there often. Sounds like you have a winner.
Woohoo!
Lots of
Thanks,
luck with it.
Blaine. Thank you.
As Jimmy works his way out, I'm going to tell him to get the hell out. Get out, Jimmy. But I should mention that underwriter support for this show on WPVM is made possible by Blaine's World, a blog that contains information about Asheville's theater scene, reviews, tidbits of information that you'll find useful, and some jokes that are hopefully not too risque. If you'd like to be added to the mailing list for this missive, just send an email to bginbc@aol.com and put subscription in the subject line. Also, I'd like to mention 2 upcoming shows in the Asheville area. One's taking place this weekend. It's called Crimes and Misdemeanors, and it's a series of skits and performances, and that will be at Magnetic Theater. It's a fundraiser for my favorite groups, Arms Around ASD. Then it'll be on January 11th, 12th at 7:30, also January 12th and 13th at 3 p.m. Information about that show, go to www.magnetictheater.org. Also, another show coming up I'm anxious to see is Nonsense, Amen, kind of the men's version of the Nonsense series. That'll be at 35 Below next to Asheville Community Theater. That runs from January 11th to the 27th, and that'll be 35 Below. For more information, ashevilletheater.org. Theater is spelled, I believe, Chandler, the correct way, with an R-E.
R-E,
Okay.
always.
Great. And anyway, that kind of gets me to introduce my second guest today, and you kind of heard his voice in the background there. But he is Chandler Smith, who's an actor, voiceover artist, stand-up comedian, upcoming podcast guru, call it what you want. And welcome aboard, Chandler.
Thank you for having me, Blaine. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. And Chandler is a New York City-based actor. I hate to say that. I miss you from being an Asheville-based actor. But he's an actor, comedian, and voiceover artist. He has worked across the country as an actor. His voice can be heard on over 100 local and national voiceover spots, including Disney Interactive, Frito-Lay, the PGA Tour, LLB, and Comcast, High-Speed Internet, to name a few. He is a founder, creative director of something called Something Random Studios. And Chandler, I'll go back to the first time I saw you, and you were just an upcoming actor, I guess, even though you've done a lot of acting before, at Mars Hill, now University, in a play that just knocked my socks off. You were Noah, was that it?
I played 2 characters named Noah there in the Owen Theater. It was probably the 2x2, was that?
2x2, yeah.
2x2, the musical version of Noah's Ark.
And
Lots of fun.
I see.
That's a throwback. That's been a while ago.
Okay, I think that was the very first time I ever saw you, and I couldn't believe it. I guess you were a freshman at the time or something. You were just beginning at Mars Hill. I'm saying to myself, who's this guy playing this 100-year-old guy? And just...
Yeah, well, that one's tricky because that character goes from 90 years old to 900 and then back to 90. So it was a lot of tumultuous hair and makeup time. I remember that.
Is that the oldest you ever played? Anybody?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess it would have to be. 900 is pretty old.
Well, I'll take you back, though, rather than 900, to your beginning of your career. And you've been acting, I think, since you were a little kid. Is that correct?
Yeah, single digits for sure.
What was your first role? Or
we were just talking about this out there. I think the first time I can remember having an identity on stage was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, maybe like probably kindergarten, and I had one line. My name is Rudolph with the bright red nose. I'll never forget it.
He remembers that?
Yeah, I remember it.
Where was that production done?
Oh, my elementary school. And I had gotten sick, and I wanted to bail. I didn't want to do it. My mom was like, "No, you got to do it. You signed up. This is your gig. This is your moment." And wow, what a trajectory it led to.
How did you get encouraged to do that? Did your mom tell you about it? Or?
Oh, she made me. It wasn't even there was nothing encouraging about it. I mean, it was yeah. I'm taking you there. We'll put a bucket off stage if you need to throw up. Then that's what will happen.
Now, did your mom tape that?
I'll bet you did. I'd have to do some research to dig that back up and bring it back into existence. But I'm sure there is evidence of it somewhere.
Because one of my ideas, I think I mentioned off the air, but one of my ideas is to have not only you, but Jimmy, all local performers, artists, directors, whatever, to do their first gig ever. Can you imagine have you make a comeback as Rudolph in Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Right?
Reindeer?
Yeah. We got to give the people what they want.
But wouldn't that be fun, though?
I would love it.
Do the first role and just, you don't have to do the whole thing.
Thankfully,
just-
I'm off book. I still remember the line. So that's not going to be an issue. No rehearsal for me.
Okay. So you went from there as a little 5-year-old doing gigs. Did you also perform for the family?
Oh, I definitely did. I definitely did. We would, my brother and I, my brother who could not be less interested at this time. We used to do little shows, I guess, for mom and dad, for an audience of 2. So, yeah, I guess I did.
And so, 5 years old, you started acting. You sort of continued ever since then?
Yeah, well, I had a lucky break when I was a kid. I was working out at Flat Rock Playhouse. I was doing a show, and it just so happened that there was a gentleman in the audience from Procom Studios, which is actually a company that's based out of, I believe, Arden. And they produced tons of national and local voiceover spots. And at the time, they were looking for young children who were articulate and who could read well. And he came to see me in this play, and this was back in the days of answering machines, before we just had voicemail on our cell phones. And we came home one night, and there was a voicemail on the voice machine, and it was somebody from Procom Studios, and they asked me to come in and record a voiceover demo. And I guess at this time I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. And we didn't really know what it was, and we went there, recorded the voiceover demo, and the next thing you know, I was booking these, national commercials as a 7 or 8-year-old, and I was going in and a studio kind of like this and reading things off of paper and getting paid all this money as a young child, and it was like, oh well, maybe this is something to consider. And I have some relatives who have been very successful in the entertainment industry, and just seemed like the right move, and here we are.
Was that your first gig? First paid gig? Or you done some stuff at Flat Rock beforehand?
Yeah. I think that being paid a livable wage, that was probably my first time. That's when it started happening regularly. I was like, okay, well, I'm being paid. This is a job. It's not a hobby.
What was your
You know what
first
I mean?
paid gig? Do you remember? Was that at Flat Rock?
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, I'm not sure. That I was so young that I can't really remember the details of. And I didn't care at that time. I was a kid, so I was just happy to be there.
So you don't have your check? You didn't frame the check?
No, I didn't do that. I should have retrospectively, but no, I didn't. I didn't necessarily. When you're that young, you don't know that that's going to be a big part of your life. So gosh, I wish I still had that check.
When did you know it was going to be a big part of your life? When did you know you wanted to become an entertainer?
Honestly, I figured it out pretty early. Once I realized how easy it was, which sounds crazy to say, but I in terms of the hours that you spend at work and what you do when you're at work with this job, regardless of how you're involved, it just didn't really seem like work. And I remember seeing a production of A Christmas Carol at Flat Rock, which is ironic because I've ended up doing that show so many times. I saw a production of it, and the actors were playing multiple parts, and it featured a lot of local favorites: Scott Treadway, Paige Posey, Peter Thompson, all these great actors that I grew up learning from. And I saw what they were doing on stage, and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I got to be doing. This is their job. They're getting paid to do this. This is how they earn their living. I think from that moment, there was just nothing else that I was going to do. That was it.
And you had fun doing it?
I had a great time. Oh, yeah.
It's
Still do.
It's still fun for you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's challenging. Each thing that you do, whether it's, a voiceover gig or I'm just coming off 4 months of a musical in Virginia, each thing that you do presents new challenges, and, that's what I enjoy about it. It's none of it's really hard, because I just have to pinch myself every day that I still get to do this. I don't have to do anything else. This is what I do. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. So at the end of the day, I've done everything that I said I was going to do. This is all I can contribute, really. This is my gig, so I got to stick with it.
Well, it's something you say it's not hard, but I always admire you. I admire any performer because just to memorize stuff is just incredible to me.
Right.
And I was telling Jimmy the first part of the show, I was in one show, did one line, and that's about my speed.
Do you remember the line?
I do.
Oh,
I was
wow.
in Young Frankenstein, and I fell off the gurney, and I had to pretend I was hurt falling off the gurney.
Oh, wow.
But I could do
So we
that.
have to have you doing that in this revisiting cabaret.
But does that come easy for you, memorization?
It depends. It's just part of the gig. Sometimes it's easy. By the time you're done with the rehearsals, it's usually in your muscle memory pretty well. I recently did the play Tune of Christmas. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that
I
play
am,
or not.
sure.
I had Scott Treadway
Scott
and
Treadway.
Preston Dyer do it over at Flat Rock, and it's always a riot when those guys do it. It's a two-person play, and so that's the last thing that I did that really, I don't want to say gave me trouble, but that was the last time I did something that was like, oh man, this is a lot of ink.
Well, that's why I always admire Scott in particular, that he can do these parts. Tune to Christmas has
Sure.
73, I don't know how many parts, but a lot of different parts and
I think
roles.
I think it's 50 parts. Yeah. It was tough. Well, people don't realize, you're memorizing, I believe the script is 93 pages. You're memorizing half of that script, and you're doing it on, in most cases, in most professional scenarios, a 13-day turnaround. Not including the tech process, which you're generally off book by that. So, there's a certain amount of preparation that goes into that people don't realize, But, yeah, it's second nature at this point.
And it must be tough to have to do this, and then after 2 weeks, move on to something else.
Yeah. One thing I've learned is as soon as the show closes, and I know that I'm not going to have to recite those words, I remove them from my brain. Because otherwise, you'll go crazy. So if you asked me to do the Tune to Christmas play right now, I would never be able to do it.
Well, even tougher, Chandler, again, I admire performers so much, is that when you're doing something like Tune to Christmas, then you're in rehearsal for something else.
Yeah.
Have you had to do that?
I have. And, people often think that in the professional world, we just have months and months to prepare. No, it's 13 days, pretty much across the board wherever you're working. So, yeah, I've definitely had to double up. I had to do that a lot at SART, Southern Appalachian Repertory Theater. There were times where I would be doing shows, and then I would go do a matinee, and then in between the shows, I would be rehearsing for something else. And, it's just about compartmentalizing your brain and knowing, okay, right now I'm in this mode, and now I'm rehearsing, and then I'm going back to do this same show at night. It's tricky. It's tricky that way.
Have you ever had to do 3 shows at a time? Working on one and then
Oh, sure. Yeah.
starting to rehearse for 2 others?
Right. Well, what I've done is I've opened one show, immediately start rehearsal for another. As soon as that one goes up, I've been in rehearsal for something else. So that's always nice when that happens.
Well, it's nice from a performing standpoint.
Right,
But,
right.
but from a working standpoint, that puts a little pressure on you, I guess.
Definitely. It's just one of those things. It's part of the gig. You just have to manage it as best you can.
I had fun with you a couple of years ago. It was a great trip. We went out to Tennessee, and you
Right.
did a whole summer. Was that of Murder Mystery?
Yeah, I believe that was in the fall.
Fall,
Yes, the
yeah.
fall. But yeah, I was with them for about 4 months the first time, and now I've kind of stepped back into the picture to help them kind of as a consultant, and that's been the first gig for my production company. I had all these aspirations to do these great projects of my own, and then we got a client, so I had to focus on that for the last year, which has been really a blessing.
Let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, we were mentioning the show I saw you in was that in Tennessee. What was this show?
I can't remember which show. It was probably
It was the Murder Mystery.
right. There was an I Love Lucy
I Love
parody.
Lucy, yeah.
So that would have been me and Chelsea Lee Gaddy, who's a great local performer.
And that's one of the
who I
first
love
times.
dearly.
That's one of the first times I saw Chelsea.
Yeah. Oh, she was
performing.
brilliant. What a brilliant Lucille Ball.
And that was just such a fun thing.
Oh yeah, we had a blast.
And
Adore her.
and now you're coming back to that theater and doing some more, or in Tennessee, you're doing some work there.
Yeah, I'm not going to be performing there this year, but I'm going to be. I'm serving as kind of their resident casting person, and just as a consultant. I've been brought on as a consultant to help the producers and kind of shape the work that's happening at that space. That's a great company, by the way.
And what's the company or the theater?
They are called the Great Smoky Mountain Murder Mystery Dinner Show. They've been, I think, about 12 or 13 years now. And traveling Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. Be sure to check them out. They do great stuff. It's fun for the whole family. I just adore the folks over there.
It was just a lot of fun. I also had fun, and I'm going to ask you about another role I saw you in. And I try to see you in a lot of stuff, but you're not local too much anymore.
Right.
But I also got a kick out of going to New York. I can't believe I tripped all the way to New York to see you
Right.
in a child's production of something. What was that?
Piggy Nation the musical. Can't forget that.
How long were you in that?
The production ran for a year and a half off Broadway in New York City, in Times Square, 50th and Broadway, at what at the time was the Snapple Theater Center. I did that for a year and a half. Same producers who produced The Fantastics, which is the longest running show in New York. It's since closed, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a blast. I forgot you came to see that.
Yeah, and I'm not ordinarily into children's theater. I had
Right.
fun with that.
It was a fun time. It was a fun time. What I always tell people about that show is I got to do something that I'll never get to do again. I don't know if you remember this part or not. Maybe not even appropriate for the show, but I had to pretend to use the bathroom, number 2, and we had this prop, and the prop was a Tootsie Roll. And I kept the Tootsie Roll in my back pocket, and when the time came, I pulled it out of my back pocket, squatted down, and then dropped it on the stage. And it was just this great sight gag because the audience didn't know what it was. I think that's one of my favorite on-stage moments today.
And do you still have that Tootsie Roll?
I do not still have the Tootsie Roll, but what's funny is they gave me, they have like the little Tootsie Rolls,
Right.
but then they also have the big, long
Right.
Tootsie Rolls. And so they gave me this big, long Tootsie Roll, and I used that same Tootsie Roll for a year and a half. So by the end of it, it was just covered in dust. I had these feathers on my costume, so it was covered in feathers and dust, and it didn't really look like the same thing. But by the end of that run, a year and a half later, I was using the same Tootsie Roll.
It's a shame. That should be another prop we should have kept and framed on the wall. You know?
Every day I regret not taking it.
Oh.
It was not sanitary for me to take. I was very glad to throw it away. It got very sticky. It would stick to my hands. Just a nightmare. But
And what done? Do you have a favorite role?
it's funny you should ask me that. People ask me that all the time. Each one is different. Each role, I find something. I find a piece of myself to invest into every part that I play. On the spot, I don't have an answer. I think I try to find the beauty in every single role that I take on. The character that I've been doing out at Busch Gardens in their show Fiends, which is a cult classic for Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and Tampa. It's been around since before I was born. The character is Igor, based off the Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein, Mary Shelley character. And that character is just, I've got such a following from that show down there. Hundreds of people reach out to me after that show closes every year. I've done the show 4 years in a row. So I'd say that's probably one that's close to my heart just because he's the underdog at the end. He kills the bad guy, and the audience goes nuts. And, on any given the theater holds 1,000 folks. So on a typical day, sometimes 10,000 people. That's been the role that I've had the most response and say, we really enjoyed that. It's a lot of fun, and we love to see the underdog win. So if I had to answer the question, I would say that's been the most meaningful play because I've played these parts with such great substance. But I would have to say that.
Do you have a preference? Comedy, drama, music?
Not musical. I prefer not musical these days. Although I'm just coming off 4 months of a musical. I would say comedy or drama.
There's one thing I'm sorry I missed you in. What was it? Biloxi Blues?
Biloxi Blues.
I really wanted to see that.
The great Ivoryton Playhouse in Ivoryton, Connecticut. Tons of famous people have performed in that space too. The energy in that theater. It's a lot like Flat Rock Playhouse, where you feel such great energy when you walk into the space. You know that so much great work has been done there. Biloxi Blues, Neil Simon, what a great time.
Been at Barter?
Not in many years.
Have you ever performed at Barter?
No. But I've been out there. I was, it's been 10 years there. But
So I keep thinking of things I'd love to get you locally again or perform for.
Absolutely love to work there. Richard is the artistic director. If you're listening, please. I'm here. I'm ready.
And like I said, Flat Rock, you've done a ton. I'd love to get. Just like.
Love to come to Flat Rock Lisa. Please. I adore her. Wonderful, wonderful.
The stuff you've done, again, I know a little bit about the voiceover stuff. You also now are getting comedy for a while.
Yeah, well, it's. I was much younger when I first moved out to New York, and it was going really well. I was going up on these open mics, and I was killing it. And then one time I went up, and it didn't go well, and it scared me for years after that. I was afraid to do it. I just bombed, and which is a big part of it, Big part of being a stand-up comedian is bombing and understanding that that's okay, and that's part of the process. Well, I was 20 years old, so I didn't understand that. And
Because I guess it's interesting. Prior to that, you never really bombed, I guess, in your life.
I had a couple sets that were really well. When you're saying somebody else's words on
Right.
stage and it kills, you can't really take credit for that because those aren't your words.
Right.
So I was used to that sensation, and I went up a couple times in New York and I really did well. And my comedy is not friendly for the family, and I stepped into the Broadway Comedy Club. I'll never forget it, and I went up and just ate it. I mean, radio silence. They were offended. I mean, it was just traumatic.
Was that you or the audience, you think? Or a little bit of both?
It's tough to say. The audience was definitely dead. It was on like a Tuesday. It was like a Tuesday night, so it wasn't nobody really wanted to be there. I'm pretty sure the majority of the seats were filled by people that had been scalped on the street, those kind of audiences. So they were already not on my side. The guy before me was terrible. I remember that. So I went in there and I was excited. The Broadway Comedy Club, that's a big deal. I was so excited to be doing 5 minutes there, and then it scared me away for many years. And I just started getting back into it, and I'm having a blast with that. Having a blast.
Do you write your own stuff?
Oh yeah. No, I certainly don't want to steal anybody else's stuff. I write my own stuff, and I'm less concerned with bombing now, and I'm not afraid to go up there and try new stuff. That's what it's all about, In order to be a good comic, you have to go up there and just try things and figure out what your comedic voice is. And that's an everyday process for me at this point.
You talk about every day. When you think of something, do you write it down or you jot down ideas?
I do. I write very vague ideas in the notes section of my iPhone. So if anybody ever hacks into my phone and pulls that up,
You're in trouble.
They're not going to even know what hit them.
Oh.
Yeah, it's irreverent and a lot of times doesn't make any sense.
So when was the last time you did a stand-up comedy thing?
Just a couple days ago, I did one in Virginia. I was testing out a lot of material down there, kind of in secret, because, our shows. I've been out in Virginia for the past 4.5 months doing a show, and the shows at Busch Gardens have such a big following, and so many people, tens of thousands of people, come in to see those shows that I didn't want to advertise what I was doing comedy-wise to those people because, it's not necessarily, as I said before, family friendly. So I didn't want to get those two things. I didn't want to intermingle those two audiences. So I would just go and kind of perform for locals and just work out some new material before I go back to the city next week and start. The New York audiences are different than the Virginia audiences, and that's been an interesting discovery. So I was just working out new material and not really telling anybody, kind of using it as practice rooms.
Have you folks seen any of your comedy?
I don't think they've ever seen me do it live, but I tell them about it all the time, which is kind of weird because a lot of it is stuff that I normally wouldn't say to my parents, but I always preface it with, pretend like I'm not your son and that you're out for an evening at the comedy club, and, I say some horrific thing, and if my parents laugh, then I know it's good,
You ever watch the show Amazing Mrs. Maisel?
I have not, but just about every actor in New York City has gotten to work on that show.
Well,
so
because I'm telling you, you have to see it if you have Amazon Prime.
I do.
See it immediately because the whole segment now is talking about her father and mother discovering she's a stand-up comedian for the
Right.
first time, and she's not clean. She's like a Joan Rivers type thing.
Sure.
So the father is aghast. He can't believe the language coming out.
When it's your kid, especially, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing. People don't realize comics who can work clean.
Right.
What a tremendous skill set that is, and they always work more than everybody else. But working clean is the hardest thing you could do.
Have you ever done that?
No, no, I have not. I should do it. I should come up with a clean 10 minutes or soming, but no, that's not me.
Or even as you're telling you're such a great storyteller. Even telling the story of the show in New York, about the Miss Piggy thing.
Right.
That alone would be such a funny a bit. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
And then bring out the Tootsie Roll.
My career highlight. Yeah, seriously.
But that really, I'm telling you, that'd be a great routine. Also, I'm thinking, Chandler, keep in the back of your mind, as I mentioned to you, I'd love to get you down here. Again, maybe at Jimmy's place
I
in
would love
Hendersonville,
that.
or I told you Attic Salt. We'd love to have you come at Attic Salt. It'd be a great way to check out some of your stuff, test out some of your stuff locally. Keep it in mind.
Right. At some point, in the next year or so, I would like to do a comedy evening here in Asheville.
Yeah.
I haven't even started really thinking about that yet, but at some point I do want to do that.
Talk about something else too in your spare time. It seems like you don't have a lot of spare time because it seems like you're always moving in about 27 different directions.
Yeah,
The-
trying to.
You were telling me off the air that you're now going to be doing and on radio you're going to be doing a
podcast.
podcast. Yeah,
Correct.
Talk about that.
Well, so I started this production company, Something Random Studios, a little less than a year ago, and we had these great plans to really produce our own work, our own projects, and fortunately and unfortunately, we got really tied up with a great client and have been working as a consultant on these shows rather, and it kind of I was so busy with that it didn't really give me time to pursue my own projects. And so many people have told me that I should start a podcast. I have all these great connections and friends in the entertainment industry in New York, many of whom are household names, and I think that starting this podcast will give me an opportunity to talk with those people just like we're doing right now, and kind of broadcast those conversations to a larger audience, or an audience of people who may not know much about the entertainment industry or who want to know more about these guests. So I'm looking at we'll be announcing them shortly. I've got my first couple guests are pretty high profile household kind of household names. So I'm really looking forward to getting that off the ground. We've actually started a GoFundMe page, and I will send you the link to that. We're attempting to raise the funds to do this podcast completely via crowdsourcing, which I've never done before. This is my first time ever crowdsourcing anything. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I'm not really sure how it works. But we've set up a GoFundMe, and I'll gladly send you the link to that. And we're hoping to raise $800 in order to get some portable equipment. So your setup here is stationary. We can come to the studio and do the show here. My goal is to be able to go wherever I need to go. I could do this show in a public restroom if that's what needs to happen. So we're raising the funds to take our show kind of on the road, so we can do it from wherever.
You just gave yourself a great idea. I don't know if you know it, but like Seinfeld does stuff in cars, you
Right.
could do stuff in bathrooms.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, the hope is that we can with each episode we can do it in a place that's kind of unconventional.
No, but think about that. I love the concept. That I don't know, Chandler's Clubhouse or what?
Chandler's Clubhouse, which is just a public restroom.
Right.
That sounds like a place that would be my clubhouse.
Some of the top restrooms in the area. And you met first half of the show, and we'll go out afterwards with Jimmy. Could be a guest for you too. Down in
Absolutely,
Hendersonville.
and you as well. I would
Yeah.
love that.
But that's such a great concept, Chandler. And the nice thing about this is just you're going to just do it, and hopefully you'll be up and running. Do you have a plan on?
Yeah, we're hoping to start airing all the episodes in mid-March. I've already got the guests lined up, and I'm going to be announcing those very shortly. The first 5 guests.
Very exciting.
And hopefully we'll start releasing those in mid-March. That's the plan.
Okay.
as of right
Chandler,
now.
if any folks want to get more information about Chandler Smith, the man behind the legend, best bet is to do what?
Well, I'm on the social media. I don't really do Twitter. I am on Instagram at ChandlerSmithNYC, or you can check out ChandlerSmith.com. My stand-up date should be on there very shortly, as well as the podcast. Once we get that up and running, that will be streaming and on the website. And you can also find where I'm going to be with my acting gigs too. So that will all be posted on the website.
And you're also on Facebook as well. Is
I
that
am
correct?
on Facebook. I don't have a Facebook page that's like a comedy page or anything. It's just my personal page. But I am on there. Would love to connect.
Okay, Chandler Smith, I'd like to thank you for being my guest this second hour on the Blaine's World Show.
Thank you for having me.
I'd also like to
I
thank,
love to listen to the Blaine's World show wherever I am.
you never miss it. I'd like to also thank Jimmy Ferraro for being my guest on the first half hour, Amy Prisnash, my producer, and to Zuzu Welsh, who provided the music you heard at the beginning of the show. You'll now be hearing at the end. I look forward to having you join me next Wednesday, 9 9 a.m. here on the new WPVM LP in Asheville. We also repeat the show on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. And you can listen not only online, but you can hopefully see us on WPVM's Facebook page. You can wave everybody to Chandler if we're on Facebook, which I believe we are. And we look to see you folks next week.
Listening to WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina. 103.7 on your dial. And globally at WPVMFM.org.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. Australia says the UN's declared a Saudi woman who fled her family a legitimate refugee. The Australian Department of Home Affairs says it will now consider Rahaf Mohammed Al Qunun's case in the usual way.